Hey guys, my name is Yvette and welcome to my DIY channel, and I hope that you guys are having a great day. So today's video is going to be a mashup of 10 air dry clay projects that I've done on my channel from like the past year to like 2 years. Anyways, let's get started. Alright guys, so for our first air dry clay project, we're going to be making an incense holder, and for this project I'm going to be using Daz air dry clay. So grab some clay and roll it out, and then I put the two little sticks on the side to make sure that I rolled this out to be 1/4 of an inch thick. Next, I'm going to use this old rectangular box to cut out a rectangle in my clay. It turned out to be a little wider than I wanted it to be, so I just trimmed off some clay off of the side. And now I'm just blending out the edges with a little bit of water on my fingers. I wanted this incense holder to be wavy, so I just found some random objects around my house to help me add the waves in, and then for this I wanted the edges of the incense holder to be facing upwards. And whenever I see wavy incense holders like this, I always think that they're so simple, but they always look so elegant. Lastly, I'm taking an incense stick and I'm poking a hole where I want it to be placed, and then I just moved it around a little bit to make the hole a little bit bigger because the air dry clay does shrink and you don't want this hole to close up. And then yeah, just let this dry for about 2 days.
Later.
Okay guys, so here's our incense holder dry, and now I'm just gonna sand it and then I'm gonna paint. For the paint, I'm going to be using Vintage White by Folk Art, and then I'm going to add in some baking soda so that I can give my project a faux ceramic look. I also wanted to give this a checkered look, so I just sketched in the best I could checkered print, and then I painted it in black. Lastly, I'm going to seal this with Decor Arts matte varnish, and then just add in some incense sticks with this, and this would make such a great holiday present. Okay guys, so for our first planter, I'm going to be remaking this one that I saw on Urban Outfitters website because I thought that it was just so cute, and then I became obsessed with it. The first thing I'm going to do is sketch out a couple of clouds on this piece of paper, and I'm going to use these as my stencils for the clouds that I'm going to be putting on this planter. And so I'm just going to set these aside for now. I'm also going to be using this old Bath & Body Works candle jar for my planter. And then for this project, I'm going to be using creative paper clay, so just take out a big chunk and then roll it out. Grabbing my jar, I'm going to start covering it with clay, and we're using the jar because we can't get air dry clay wet, because if it gets wet, it'll get mushy again. And then right here, make sure to have a good overlap where the clay meets because you don't want this to separate once it dries. So I'm going to make sure to have at least 1/4 of an inch overlap. And then before I blend that together, I'm going to remove the extra clay hanging off from the top and the bottom of the jar. Using my feather wire tool, I'm going to score the clay and then add some water to make it tacky. And then I'm just going to blend these two pieces in together. I'm also going to be using my wood modeling tool to blend the clay together. So this looks pretty good to me, and now I'm going to make sure to clean up the rim of the planter. For the bottom of the planter, I never cover my planters with clay, so I'm just going to remove any clay around the bottom. Okay, so this is looking good to me. So on the Urban Outfitters planter, it looks like they painted their clouds on the planter, like it's all flat, but I wanted to make mine pop out, so I'm gonna roll out more clay and then trace out my clouds. Now that my clouds are ready, I'm going to place them on my planter. I'm going to make sure to score the back of my clouds and then add water to them to make them tacky as I place them on my planter. And I'm not following any pattern as I place my clouds on, I'm just doing it randomly. Okay, so here's what I got so far, and I like this, so now I'm just gonna let this dry for a few days.
12 seconds later.
So here's the planter dry, and I don't feel like I need to sand this at all, so I'm just gonna paint. The last thing I'm going to do is seal, and I'm going to be using Decor Art's Triple Thick Gloss Glaze. Okay guys, so for our air dry clay project, we're going to be making a hand ring holder. So grab a really big chunk of clay and then start shaping it to look like the palm of a hand. And this may look a bit like an arched shape. And I'm going to use some water to smooth this out a bit. You should have something that looks like this, and then make sure that you made it thick enough so that this could stand up on its own. Now I'm going to roll out a few coils, and these are going to be for the fingers, so try to make your coils as thick as your fingers or like a little bit thinner so that your rings can like fit through them. Okay, so here are my coils, and now I'm going to cut out my fingers. This first one here is for my ring finger. And then this one here, I'm cutting out the thumb, and you can see that I'm doing it at an angle because I'm going to connect the thumb to the side of the palm, so it'll just make it easier to attach. And then I'm just going to cut out my pointer finger and then the ring finger and lastly the pinky. And I didn't make any of these fingers super long, but you can make yours longer if you wanted to. I just wanted mine on the shorter side. Here I'm using a little bit of water to help me smooth out the tips of the fingers. I'm arranging the fingers on the palm just to see how I want them to look, and so now I'm ready to attach them. Taking my scoring tool, I'm going to score the bottom of the finger and then where I want to attach it on the palm. And I'm sorry if it's a little bit blurry, guys. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of water, dab it on there to give it a little bit of tackiness, and then I'm going to attach the finger to the palm and press down on it. I'm taking a small coil of clay and then I'm going to wrap it around the finger, and it's going to help attach the finger to the palm. And then using my modeling tool, I'm going to blend this all in together. As you guys can see, I'm not super neat about this. The water will really help me blend this all in together. Okay, so you should end up having something like this, and for me the finger was like a little bit on the thinner side, so I'm just going to add another coil of clay around the bottom of the finger just to give it a little bit of thickness, but you guys can skip this step. I really like how this first finger looks, so now I'm going to move on to the middle finger. So we're just going to do the same steps that we did before. Just be careful when you blend out the clay next to the finger that you have already attached, because you don't want to knock it down. Okay guys, so lastly we're going to do our thumb. Here's my hand and I love how it looks, so now I'm just going to make sure that it can still stand up on its own, which it does, and so now I'm going to let this dry for a few days.
12 seconds later.
Our ring holder is now dry, and so now I'm going to sand this a little bit and then I'm going to paint. The last thing I'm going to do is seal this with Decor Arts matte varnish, and we're done. Okay guys, so to make this plant stand, I'm going to be using this old cardboard box that I had. Any type of cardboard box will work for this, and I'm going to be using this for the base of my project. This little side piece that you guys see here seemed like the perfect width to make my sections for the plants that I'm going to put on this stand, and so it's 3.5 inches wide. The plants that I'm going to place on this are my smaller plants, which are about 2 inches wide, but this could fit bigger plants. This first piece that you guys see me bend up is going to be my first section, and it's already 3.5 inches wide. And now I'm taking that little cardboard piece that I showed you guys earlier, and I'm going to use that to sketch out another 3 sections because I want this plant stand to be 4 tiers. And so now I'm just going to cut off any extra cardboard that I don't need. Okay, so now we have our 4 rows, and this first row right here, I'm going to make it 1.5 inches high. And then I'm tracing these out in white so that you guys can see it better because the pencil's really not showing up. And then for the second row, I'm going to make it 3 inches high. And so every section, I'm just going up 1.5 inches. Okay guys, so I wrote down my dimensions for you guys if you wanted to use the same ones that I did. And so my tallest row is 6 inches, and then 4.5, and then 3, and then 1.5, and they're all 3.5 inches wide. So then I just cut this out. And then I decided I wanted to sketch in a little arch in between the tallest 2 rows. And I didn't use exact measurements on this, I just kind of freehanded it. And then I used a nursery pot to help me make the arch. But the closest measurements to the arch that I made is that it's about 4 inches high and a total of 3 inches wide. So then I just cut the arch out, and I made sure to trace out another one of these because we're going to be needing 2 of them, and they're going to be standing up like this. Going back to that cardboard piece that was 3.5 inches wide, now I'm going to use that to tape everything together. And just make sure to go all around this. You guys can see better than I can explain. So you should end up with something that looks like this. And now I'm just going to cover this all up with some clay. So roll out your clay. I'm going to cover up my little plant stand in sections to make it easier for me. I'm starting with the top part right now, and I'm trimming off a little bit of the excess clay. I did leave a little bit of the clay, as you guys can see right here, because I do want the clays to overlap when I attach new sections. And then I'm just blending this clay into the cardboard to make sure that it does stick. So yeah, I'm just basically gonna repeat this step all around until all of the cardboard is covered. And then when I have pieces like this meeting, I'm going to use my modeling tool to help this all blend together. Okay guys, so now that the cardboard is fully covered, I'm going to set this aside to dry for about 2 to 3 days. Then I decided I wanted to add little flowers to my plant stand, and so I'm going to use this flower mold, and I'm going to use Sculpey clay, which is a different kind of clay from the one I used for the plant stand. And I'm going to pop out a bunch of little flowers using this mold. I think I made a little bit over 20 flowers, and I didn't actually end up using all of them, but it's better to have more than less. Okay guys, so here's our plant stand dry, and so now I'm going to give this a really good sand because on some of the connecting corners I didn't blend it out as well as I should have, so the sandpaper is really going to save me here. And now I'm going to paint, and I'm going to be using the color Golden Straw by Decor Art, and this color is such a beautiful mustard yellow. And I chose to use a mustard yellow because I actually don't use a lot of yellow in my projects. Okay guys, so here are my little flowers dry, and then I painted them, and I just used a bunch of different colors for these. So now I'm going to place the little flowers randomly wherever I like them on the plant stand, and then I'm going to hot glue them into place. Lastly, I'm going to seal this with Decor Art's matte varnish. But yeah guys, now we're done, and I am absolutely obsessed with this. Okay guys, so our air dry clay project we're going to be making is a candle holder. Grab a huge chunk of clay and roll it out into a thick coil, and then I'm very slightly going to flatten it out. I made mine a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim off a little bit off of the ends. And then I'm going to attach it to make it look like a donut, and I'm going to blend the clay into itself. Smooth out any bumps or cracks in the clay with some water. That looks pretty good to me, so I'm going to set that to the side, and now we're going to work on the bottom part of the candle holder. And for this part, I'm going to shape the clay to look like a half circle. So something like this, and then make sure that you smooth out the clay. ever so slightly gonna flatten out the top of the circle, and then I'm gonna attach the donut that we made to the top of our circle. I'm rolling out some more clay to make the candle holder like stem. I'm going to place a candle on the clay and then wrap the clay around it. Make sure you wiggle the candle in there to make the hole just a little bit bigger because this will shrink once it dries. This candle holder stem we made was just a little bit longer than I needed it to be, so I'm going to cut it a little shorter, and then I'm just going to make sure to smooth everything out. I'm adding some water to the top of the donut to make it sticky, and then I'm going to attach the stem to the rest of our candle holder by scoring the clay. And to make sure that the stem really sticks onto the body of the candle holder, I rolled out a coil of clay and I'm wrapping it around the stem and the donut, and then I'm going to blend everything in together using the modeling tool. I'm checking one more time that the candle can fit inside of the candle holder. And yeah, I like this, so now I'm gonna let this dry. Alright guys, so here's our candle holder dry, and I'm painting this with the mint color that came inside Potted's kit. And this is a really pretty mint color, but on camera it's coming off a little bit greener than it actually is. It's like a true mint. Anyways, I'm gonna speckle this with some white paint. And my speckles are super tiny. You can only see them if you like really look at it closely. And then lastly, I painted some flowers on this. And you can seal this if you want to, but I decided not to. Okay guys, so for our air dry clay project, we're going to be making that wavy wall art that's like super popular right now. And so for this project, I'm going to be using creative paper clay because it's a lightweight clay, and if I wanted to hang this on the wall, it wouldn't be like too heavy. So you want to grab a canvas, whatever size you want your art to be, and I'm going to start out small. So this is an 8 by 10 inch canvas. And then I also liked that this had a little border to it. Grab your clay and roll it out nice and thin, and I do recommend using creative paper clay for this. Okay guys, so once your clay is rolled out, place it on top of your canvas and then just start making your little waves on the canvas. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, just do whatever you feel looks good. kind of feel like I should have added in a few more waves, but oh well. Now I'm going to start removing the extra clay using my needle tool. And I did want to keep that border that this canvas has, so I'm going to take the clay off of there too. This looks pretty good to me right now, so I'm going to let this dry for about a day and then check in on it. Okay guys, so this is my first check-in on it and it's drying really well. I didn't get any like wrinkles on this one like I did with the DAS clay when I made the folds on that, but I can see that the clay did shrink a tiny bit. It's not touching the border anymore, so I am gonna fix that. I'm gonna add clay to the little edges of my project so that it completely touches the border, and then I'm just gonna let this keep drying for another day. So here she is completely dry, and I am going to sand her where I added in that extra clay because it needs it. Now I'm going to paint this a taupey brown that I mixed together. Okay guys, so this is where I went on a bit of a journey. So after I painted, I decided I wanted to seal this with a gloss, and I thought it looked good, but once I removed the tape from the sides to show the frame, I just didn't like it that much. I thought it looked kind of like awkward with a matte border. So then I decided to repaint it again and then seal it with a matte varnish, and the matte varnish was still kind of like it changed it. It made it look like it still had like a tiny bit of a gloss. I don't know. So I still didn't like it, so then I repainted it again, and then I loved it like this without any sealer on it at all. It just looks so much better to me. But if you didn't have a frame on it, I feel like it would look great with both the matte sealer or the gloss sealer. Okay guys, so for our project, we're going to be making an air plant hanger, and so I sketched out the stencil to use for my project. You can pause this frame here to know what measurements I used, or you can just make up your own, or you can just freehand it as you go. And so we're going to start out by rolling out our clay, and I'm going to be using DAS clay for this. I'm going to place my stencil on top of my clay and then trace it out, and I'm going to make sure to also trace out all of those little rectangles. When you remove your stencil, you should be able to see the little rectangles you did. On camera, it's a lot harder to see them, but in person, they will definitely show up for you. Right here, I traced them out so you guys could see them better. But yeah, all we're gonna do is just remove all of those rectangles. Now I'm going to take some water on my hand and just blend everything out as best I can. And I'm also going to go back in with my needle tool to just clean up the squares a little bit more. Here I'm making sure to also blend the edges of my rectangle. Taking a straw, I'm going to poke a hole on the right and on the left side of this so that we can hang this once this is dry. I'm going to use this bowl to place my clay on the outside of it so that my clay can dry curved. You could also use like one of those big 3-wick candles from Bath & Body Works or anything that you have that is circular. And I did wrap this in plastic wrap so that my clay doesn't stick to the bowl.
Later.
Okay guys, so here's our plant hanger now that it's dry, and I am going to sand this. And then now I'm going to paint, and I'm painting this in ivory color. It's super hard to tell on camera because it kind of looks the same as the clay, but there is a difference. I'm going to speckle this with some pinky brown colored paint, and I did go very heavy-handed with my speckling. To seal, I'm going to be using Deco Art's Triple Thick Gloss Glaze because I just love this stuff. Next, I'm going to take some twine so that we can hang this up, and I did tape off the ends to make it easier for me to string some wooden beads through. Make sure to do the same to the other side. Figure out around where you want to tie this off and then do your knot, and we're done. For our air dry clay project, we're going to be making a mushroom incense holder because I've been wanting one of these for the longest time, and I think mushrooms are just so cute. Anyways, start out by rolling out your clay. Next, I'm going to trace out a circle for our mushroom cap, and I'm just going to be freehanding this. It doesn't have to be perfect because mushrooms come in all shapes and sizes, but you could definitely use like a little plate to help you trace it out if you really wanted yours to be perfect. So my clay was a little thicker than I wanted it to be, so I'm just going back in and I'm going to roll it out just a little bit more. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of clay and I'm going to make a little mini dome, and this is going to hold my incense stick up. Now I'm going to attach my little dome to the middle of my circle, and I'm going to use my feather wire tool for this. Taking a little bit more clay, I'm going to roll it into a coil, and then I'm going to wrap this around the dome. Using one of my molding tools, I'm going to blend these two pieces together, and adding that coil of clay around the dome just gives us more security that these pieces stay attached. My mushroom cap is a little bit bigger than I want it to be, so I'm going to cut a little piece off. Now I'm going to take little bits of clay and I'm going to add the little scales to my mushroom cap. I want the edges of my mushroom cap to be wavy, so I'm going to add in those waves right here, but you could totally keep yours flat. Taking one of my incense sticks, I'm going to poke a hole in the middle of that dome that we attached. And yeah, this is how our stick is going to be held up. I want my mushroom cap to dry completely flat, and so I'm going to let the top dry for about a day and a half, and then I'm going to attach the stem, because if I attach the stem right now, the cap will droop down and I don't want that. So here's my mushroom cap now that it's dried for about a day-ish, and the bottom isn't completely dry yet, which is fine, but I know that this isn't going to bend down anymore, so I'm going to finish my mushroom off now. I'm going to take some more of my clay and I'm just going to roll out a coil for the stem. Right here, I'm just pushing down on it to make sure that the bottom is flat and that it stays up. Now I'm putting the mushroom cap on top of the stem, and I'm also pressing down a little bit so that it flattens the top of the stem too. Going back in with my feather wire tool, I'm going to add in those little scratches that you guys see to give this a little bit more of a grip for when we attach it. Anyways, I'm going to take some more clay and I'm going to wrap a coil around the stem and the mushroom cap, and then I'm just going to blend these two pieces together, and this is definitely going to help these hold on to each other really well. The thicker of a coil you wrap around to blend this together, the better of a hold you're going to have. I made sure to use some water to blend everything out really well. I'm also making sure that this is standing up how I want it to be, and then I'm going to let this dry for like another day or two. Here's my mushroom completely dry, and I just love how this looks, and so now I'm going to slightly sand it. And now I'm going to paint. The last thing I'm going to do is seal this with Deco Art's triple thick gloss glaze. Okay, so our project is going to be the air dry clay vase, and so start out by grabbing 2 chunks of clay and try to make them the same size. Now I'm going to roll them into circles. Take one of your circles and poke your thumb about halfway through, and now we're going to start pinching the sides and like moving it as we go, and this is called the pinch pot method. This is basically going to make a little bowl. I'm also making sure to press my thumb down on the clay to make it go deeper, but make sure that you don't poke your thumb all the way through to the other side of the clay. If you're a beginner, you can leave the sides of the bowl on the thicker side because it will just be easier for this to hold its shape. But if you're more advanced, you can definitely make this a little bit thinner. But because I haven't made one of these in a long time, I'm going to leave mine on the thicker side. I'm going to do the same thing to the other circle. Okay, so here are both of my little mini bowls, and don't worry about them being perfectly similar. As long as they're like around the same size, you should be good. And so we're gonna attach them just like this. I'm gonna add some water to the rim of the bowl, and then I'm gonna take my feather wire tool and I'm just gonna start scoring my clay. And now you can attach both pieces, and I really made sure to press these into each other. I'm going to take some more clay and roll it into a coil. And then now I'm going to wrap this coil around my vase, and I didn't make my piece long enough, so I'm going to add some more right here. Taking my molding tool, I'm going to blend the two pieces together. By the way guys, I did make my coil a little bit too big, but you guys can definitely make yours smaller. And I'm not going to be too neat with this right now because I am going to take some water to help, blend this all together, and then I'm going to go back over it again with my molding tool. By the way guys, this is really going to help the vase stay together as one piece. You don't always have to do this step, but it definitely helps. So this is what I ended up with, and it looks like a little egg, but I want my vase to have more of a short round shape. So I'm going to press down on it and kind of try to help it shape into more of like a little chubby circle. Next, I'm going to work on, I guess it's called like the neck of the vase or like the stem of the vase, whatever. So roll out some more clay and I'm going to trace out a rectangle, and then I'm just going to roll this into a circle and attach it together. Sorry guys, I'm not too good at this part. I've always had trouble like doing these little types of circles. I have these little pieces on the ends on both sides sticking out, so I'm going to take some scissors and trim those off. So here's our little stem, and I'm going to place it on my vase. Now I'm going to take my needle tool and trace out the inside of the circle right there. And now we can see how big we have to make our circle so that we can fit some dried flowers through this vase. I'm going to use my needle tool to carve out that circle. And look guys, you can kind of see in there now. Okay, so I'm going to attach my two pieces together, and I made sure to really press them into each other again. Taking another coil of clay, I'm going to wrap this around the stem of the vase, and then I'm going to blend these two in together. Make sure to use some water to help this blend together more. So you guys can totally be done here, but I wanted to add in a little handle, and so that's what I'm going to do right now. So here she is guys, and now I'm just gonna let her dry for a few days.
Later.
Our vase is nice and dry, and I feel like I don't even have to sand her, so I'm just gonna paint this a light terracotta color, and yeah, we're done. Alright guys, so for our last air dry clay project, we're going to be making a cactus air plant holder. So take a nice chunk of clay and roll it out into a coil, and this is going to be the body of our cactus. This looks pretty good, so now I'm going to take a little bit off the top and the bottom just to make sure that it's flat. I'm going to blend out any cracks in the clay with some water. Make sure that this can stand up by itself, and then I'm going to take my loop tool and I'm going to carve out some clay from the top so that I can fit an air plant in there. And then right here, make sure to blend everything out nice and neat using some water. Okay guys, so this looks pretty good. So now it's time to work on the rest of the body. I'm going to take some more clay and roll out another coil, this time a little thinner, and it's going to be for one of the cactus's arms. Right here, I'm checking the length, and I think it's still a little bit bigger than I wanted it to be, so I'm just going to cut off a little bit more of the arm, and I like this length now, so I'm going to attach this, and I'm going to score my clay using my feather wire tool. Now I'm going to take some more clay and I'm going to wrap it around where I attached the arm to the body, and then taking my modeling tool, I'm going to blend both of these pieces together. Make sure to blend everything out using some water. This is what you should have, and so now we're going to do the exact same thing and add another arm to the other side of this. And if you're having trouble keeping your arm attached to the cactus, you could also use a toothpick to help it stay together. I decided I wanted to make this arm just a little bit thicker, so I'm adding another coil of clay and blending it into the arm, and it'll just give me the thickness that I want. Alright, so do any last minute adjustments and then let this guy dry for about 2 days.
A few moments later.
Okay, so here's our cactus dry, and it looks pretty good, so I'm just going to give it a light sand and then I'm going to paint. And then of course, because it's me, I'm going to speckle because I love speckling. And then I'm going to seal this with Deco Art's matte varnish. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. If you made it to the end, thank you guys so much for watching, because this one was probably a long one. And subscribe for more DIYs, and stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!